does Indy get so much time off from teaching? I swear, he must take a sabbatical every other year. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainely Movies. Today I'm going to be talking about the third film in the Indiana Jones franchise, the 1989 action-adventure sequel, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all of that extra content. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade stars Harrison Ford, Sean Connery, and Alison Doody, and was directed by Stephen Spielberg. Set in 1938, it tells the story of archaeologist Indiana Jones as he tries to find the Holy Grail, and his father, before the Nazis do. Although Last Crusade is the third film in the Indiana Jones franchise, it's the first true Indy sequel, set 2 years after the events of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and serves as the final film of the original trilogy. When it comes to film franchises, third films sometimes face a bit of a challenge. The first movie is exciting because it's the first and it's something new. The second film is often exciting because it's a follow-up to what you saw in the first movie. Although in this particular franchise, it's technically the other way around since Temple of Doom is a prequel. But third films, they're sometimes easy to forget. Luckily, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is not one of those third films. Although I watched all of the Indiana Jones movies as a kid, I watched and liked this one the least for some reason back then. It was still fairly new when I was a kid, so something tells me that we might not have actually owned it, because most of our non-Disney VHSs were taped from TV, and I just think this one wasn't regularly shown on TV yet. But regardless of the reason, I went through much of my life thinking that I didn't actually like this one all that much, but what a mistake that was. There's no question that this movie has a lot in common with Raiders of the Lost Ark, certainly far more than it does with Temple of Doom. Both the tone and adventure are pretty similar to that first Indiana Jones movie, and this one is another film that features a race to find some sort of Christian relic before the Nazis do. It also features some familiar faces like Brody and Sala, plus Indy's back to his usual slightly less gruff self after the darkness that pervaded everything in Temple of Doom. At first glance, one could certainly mistake this movie for being a rehashed sequel of the first film. It is a very common and often successful tactic in franchises, after all. But despite the many similarities between the two films, there are a few things that really distinguish Last Crusade from Raiders, and make it a satisfying and more than worthwhile sequel. The first thing that distinguishes this film, not only from Raiders of the Lost Ark, but really all of the rest of the films in the franchise, is the humor. Now, I know what you're thinking. The humor? All of the movies are funny, what are you talking about? And you're absolutely right. None of these films are dead serious dramas. Raiders of the Lost Ark was pretty funny at times, and had a lot of fun adventure moments right along with the darker moments, just like this one does. But there's something lighter about Last Crusade. That's certainly no surprise compared to Temple of Doom, but I think it applies even when compared to Raiders. This movie is still plenty violent, but Spielberg had really honed and perfected that Amblin Spielbergian look and feel that's almost omnipresent in his mid to late 80s films, and applied it here. The bouncy, exciting adventure is back, there's a lot more fun, jokey chemistry again, there's a lot of situational humor. The no-ticket moment on the Zeppelin is still a favorite of mine, as is the autograph scene, and the revolving fireplace, and about a dozen other moments. Part of what adds to much of this humor and lightness is one of the other things that truly distinguishes this movie from the other films in the original trilogy: family. Up to this point, Indy had mostly been portrayed as a bit of a loner who wasn't really tied down by anything, including his day job apparently, and just went on these adventures. Now, he had certainly had people he cared about and went out of his way to protect in the earlier movies, Marion in Raiders of the Lost Ark and Short Round in Temple of Doom, but the inclusion of his father, Dr. Henry Jones Sr., in this film was a whole other thing. There's a lot of humor that comes from his father tagging along on a classic indie adventure, and Harrison Ford and Sean Connery have great chemistry, but this family aspect goes beyond just that entertainment side of things. The father-son plotline isn't just part of the film, it's the whole point of it. Yes, this story focuses on another archaeological adventure, but this movie's far less about the Holy Grail than it is about the restoration of the Jones father-son relationship, as they gain a deeper understanding of one another and what they each have to offer. It's a surprisingly touching and impactful deviation from the usual Indiana Jones plot. There's not that much of a deviation when it comes to the action or adventure here, though. This movie features some of the wonderful clue finding and puzzle solving that Raiders of the Lost Ark had, but is arguably even more influential on future puzzle based treasure hunting films and games. Like the other indie films, this one's also loaded with tons of memorable action sequences. There's just as much action here, but somehow it feels a little less serialized or episodic, flowing better within the context of the story. I think that this film actually has the best pacing of the franchise, effectively balancing story with great character moments and exciting action to keep things moving along. This film is absolutely loaded with chases, and it's kind of funny when you're looking out for them, because there are so many. But like I said, the action's just incredibly enjoyable here. There's underwater rat-filled crypts, fiery chair escapes, motorcycle jousting, fittingly Bondian boat chases, aerial dog fighting, or perhaps I should say bird fighting, and of course the extended tank sequence. And who could forget the excellent introduction for Indy that shows the teenage origins of the character's trademark characteristics and mannerisms, portrayed wonderfully by River Phoenix. Of all the films in the Indiana Jones franchise, Last Crusade is the one I've continually grown to appreciate much more over the years. It's kind of ironic that the most kid and family-friendly entry in the series was the one I liked the least as a kid, while the darkest and most kid-unfriendly, Temple of Doom, was my favorite at the time. Go figure. Raiders of the Lost Ark deservedly gets most of the glory and praise in the franchise, but I gotta say, Last Crusade gives it a run for its money. This is a fun and incredibly engaging adventure story that takes lessons from what worked in the previous films and combines them with a satisfying new family element to craft an excellent end to the original trilogy. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. Pro number one has got to be the characters. I know we're seeing some repetition with pros among the movies in this franchise, but these things just keep being consistently good. Now, there are a few underwhelming characters here, so this doesn't encompass absolutely everyone, but certainly the two Joneses are excellent. Indiana Jones is such a fun and interesting character, and we get to see him back to his normal self after the slightly darker, gruffer detour of Temple of Doom. We also get to briefly see a teenage version of him too, which is a lot of fun. In addition to Indy, we also finally get introduced to his father, Dr. Henry Jones Sr., who provides not only a good deal of entertainment, but also some thematic gravitas. Both characters are great on their own, but Harrison Ford and Sean Connery have such good chemistry together that the scenes featuring both Jones Jr. and Sr. together are fantastic. The second pro is another franchise repeat, the action. I'm not sure why, but I've always had it in my head that this movie was a bit light on the action compared to its two predecessors. But that's not the case at all. In fact, I think this might actually have more action than Temple of Doom does. The action here is more consistent, so it has less of that episodic, serialized feel than the other two movies had. There's perhaps an overabundance of chase scenes here. Cars, motorcycles, boats, horses, planes, tanks, but they each have enough unique elements to keep them feeling distinct from other similar chases. Some of the action feels almost Bondian at times, which is fitting given Sean Connery's presence in the film. Last Crusade's action sequences usually aren't the first ones that jump to my mind when thinking about the franchise, but they're extremely fun, engaging, and help make this the most well-paced film in the franchise. Pro number 3 is a simple one. It's fun. Now, I think all of the Indiana Jones movies are fun, but this one feels like it's trying to be fun, but in an effortless, unforced kind of way. Raiders of the Lost Ark had a grittier intensity to it, Temple of Doom was really dark, but Last Crusade feels light. There's still plenty of violence and Nazis and some creepy stuff at times, but the consistent humor and chemistry between Ford and Connery keep this movie from ever feeling too intense. Sure, a guy disintegrates into dust, but this still feels like the most family-friendly film of the original trilogy, focusing on delivering the same exciting adventure audiences were used to, just in Spielberg's then signature Amblin style. On the con side, my only issues are just minor nitpicks. Although I don't think she's a terrible character, I do think Elsa's kinda wasted here. She's miles better than Willy was in Temple of Doom, and starts off with some potential, but just goes downhill as the film progresses. Not because of her alliances, but more because of the stereotypical traits that suddenly get applied to her halfway through. Just like with the previous indie films, the practical effects are impressive, but the visual effects, mostly blue screen sequences here, are noticeably dated. That's just a consequence of technological advancement, of course, but it's a little distracting at times. And finally, not really a con or even a nitpick so much as an observation that's always kind of bothered me. I've never understood why Indy seems so skeptical about the Grail's existence and powers early on in this film. I mean, come on, man, you just watched the Ark of the Covenant melt people's faces a few years earlier, but now you're skeptical? Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade 4.5 out of 5 paws. Honestly, I'm surprising myself a bit with this one, bumping it up a half paw over where I've always had it before. This is an exceptionally fun indie adventure that has the right blend of characters, chemistry, humor, and action to close out the original trilogy. I would recommend Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade to anybody looking for a fun adventure film. This movie has many of the same elements of Raiders of the Lost Ark, but settles into a brighter, lighter place, with plenty of humor to go along with the violence. Fans of the other Indiana Jones movies should have a great time with it, and if it's been a while since you last saw it, you might want to revisit this one, because it'll probably surprise you. I know it did for me. If you liked Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, I would recommend The Da Vinci Code. Although Tom Hanks's Robert Langdon isn't quite the action hero that Indiana Jones is, this film features a similar search, focusing on finding clues and solving puzzles and riddles to uncover a religious revelation related to the Holy Grail. If you liked the idea of a treasure hunter teaming up with his father, you might want to watch National Treasure: Book of Secrets. I've already recommended the first National Treasure for a previous indie film, and of course, that would be another good recommendation here too. But this sequel incorporates more of the Gates family, as Ben's mom and dad join in on the puzzle-filled adventure. Or maybe you just want some more Indiana Jones. Then you'll definitely want to check out the first film in the franchise, Raiders of the Lost Ark. It shares in much of the tone and adventure, and features Indy in another race to find a religious relic before the Nazis do. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what's your favorite movie about a parent and child going on an adventure together? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information on this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe while you're at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainely Movies, the way life should be.